This is really, really sad. President Ahmed Bola Tinubu has finally approved the GMO food to be sold and processed in Nigeria. It's a very sad thing to hear. This is a country that has a lot of land, arable land, that can produce enough food for this country, even export outside. So why should we resort to GMO food? Knowing the health risk involved, knowing the health risk involved in GMO foods, a lot of prominent Nigerians and outcries from different angles. They wrote to Senate, also wrote to Ahmed Bola Tinubu, trying to let him know the risk involved, the health risk involved in GMO food. But still, it fell on deaf ears. They went ahead to approve it. What a sad news for Nigerians. GMO food is of no good in any way. GMO food has a lot of health implications. Even the country, Europe where it is invented, these things is not allowed. They ban it in their countries. They ban it because they know the health implication, the health risk. They know it and they had to ban it. And all these things were mentioned out to the presidents and the senators, and they still went ahead and approved it. Imagine the leaders we have. They don't care about the masses. The funniest part of this issue is that they will not even buy this GMO food. They will not eat it. They know that it's a poison. It's poisonous. A lot of things are involved in GMO food. There's a secret agenda behind it. Secret agenda behind it is part of the world depopulation agenda, to depopulate the world. There are things that, because these GMO food are programmed, they are processed and produced from the lab, not a normal way of planting seed and harvesting it, not a normal way of rearing involving in poultry. Chicken will lay eggs and incubate the eggs and it turn out to be a chicken. No, these things are processed from the lab. Even their fish, there's a way when you are eating it, you will feel that you are biting, you are chewing a plastic. You are chewing a plastic, okay, in your mouth. At the end, you bring it out and you see. So these things are they're not even nutritious in the body. A lot of things are involved that are wrong about it, and the leaders are aware of it. But they did it deliberately because they know they will not eat it. They will only leave it for the poor masses to buy, eat, and die. They will resort to the organic food. They will be buying the organic food. And again, in the long run, they will make our organic food not to even be available anymore, only to be available to the rich. Because with time, our normal crops, our normal plants, corns and other, our normal seedlings will be phased out. And GMO will not take root in the country. We will not depend on this GMO, and it will go around the country to kill people, which is the agenda. Because as time goes on, the more you consume this GMO food, you will become sterile. You will not be able to impregnate your wife again. Your wife can never conceive. It's part of the agenda. World depopulation. They want to depopulate the population of the world. So this thing is really sad. But you know one thing again, I'm looking at Nigerians are too quiet for the government. Nigerians are too calm for the government. Nigerians are their quietness and their lukewarmness, their lackadaisical attitude, their don't care attitude is too much. They don't tackle the government for accountability. Can you imagine? Look at what is happening in Kenya. You can't see that in Nigeria. But there's something I've also observed. Nigerians have not suffered enough. That is the reason. When the suffering has come to the point that it choked them, it has them on the chokehold, then they will be able to say, well, now let us come out to the street and demonstrate. The government need to see the anger in the youth. The youth need to show their anger and show that this government is mortgaging their future into a lot of things that will destroy them tomorrow. Until Nigerian youth has come to that point, to come out en masse and demonstrate just show their anger, show their disapproval, then the government will continue to do this because they know that nobody will challenge them. They know. I don't even blame them. Government is like that. Leaders are like that. They will always do some other things, but until the youth, until the people challenge their action, that is only when they can renege. So until that happens, Nigeria will continue to suffer. Then just listen to this video. Listen to this video and you hear more. You hear more detail of the evil agenda behind GMO food. This is part 1. I'm bringing part 2. So follow for more and stay tuned.
You raised an alarm through a letter you transmitted to the National Assembly, the Senate specifically. And in that letter, in fact, you touched the whole world. You copied the UN, you copied ILO, you copied the Conference of Bishops in Africa, Asia, Europe. You touched everywhere in the world. And you talked about a planned genocide of doctors in Nigeria. It's very disturbing. Can you explain or expand on that and let us know what is happening really?
Yes, thank you very much for highlighting this issue. The alarm was raised again because we've talked about this in the past, that when the Global Fund, through the Federal Ministry of Health, started sending people for the 3rd survey of health professionals and private health institutions. They were going around collecting data of location and personnel in all private hospitals in Nigeria. And this data they are actually collecting that's totally unconstitutional. You cannot collect private data for any purpose, first, without seeking the consent of the organizations involved, personal consent of the people involved, and explaining to them what this data is for. One, a foreign agent cannot collect data in Nigeria. So the Global Fund, funded by Bill Gates, has no locus to collect any data because health is national security and the data is protected under the 1999 Constitution. So they were not supposed to do that in the first place. Now, let's see the history of this data collection. They had approached the association. Then I was the chairman of the Association of Private and Medical Practitioners of Nigeria, Imo State. And we went to a national council, national executive meeting in Aba, and they came there to ask us that they want to collect data from the Global Fund funded by Bill Gates.
Just a minute, sir. Is it the Bill Gates group that approached, or they approached you through an intermediary?
No, the Bill Gates group was funding an NGO who came to make a presentation at the National Executive Council meeting, telling us they want the data to make yellow pages. Yellow pages, and this was for doctors. And what was this? Yellow pages for doctors so that they can have a directory where all the doctors are. Now they were asking for a number of things. They were asking for photographs. They were asking for fingerprints with biometric data. And they were asking for location, how many staff, who are the staff, the telephone numbers, and all that. We patiently had them out. And after that, hearing them out, we now told them to excuse us, and they left. And when they left, we now started putting things together. First of all, it would be illegal under medical ethics to have such a directory because called Yellow Pages, because that will be primarily advertising, which is not allowed ethically. Secondly, they were a foreign agent because they have no right. This is national security. Just like going to a police station, I want to know all the policemen here, all the police stations, where their locations are, their phone numbers, and all that. The Nigerian police will we just arrest you for doing that, even asking them. So the same thing is health. Health is under national security and is all protected. If you were to have the information of all the police locations, you can wipe out the police, so they will not get protected. The same thing if you were to know all the locations and telephone numbers of the doctors and the health personnel, you can also wipe the whole health personnel. And what will happen? So we will not have a health system. Then we have to now depend on a foreign health system, which we do not know the consequences. So when we noticed that this was happening, and coincidentally, we now got a message, an SOS message from Benue, that in Boko, a town in Benue, that a pharmacist, a famous pharmacist, was killed by the doctors. So now, that's what was alleged. And so now, a group of mercenaries of Boko Haram, they call them, we are now seeking all the doctors to kill them. And the doctors had gone into hiding. So we now...
When did this happen?
This happened that was in 2013, I think. And then we said, wait a minute, how come? They said, no, there was a professional field that the doctor said that the pharmacist was attending to and taking away their patients, and the pharmacist denied it, and all of a sudden they killed they alleged that the doctors killed the pharmacist, and now the pharmacist and their association hired some mercenaries to go and kill the doctors. So we now understood that actually this was a setup, and a well-conspired setup by the people who were talking to us, the Bill Gates organization. And they were using their mercenaries to attack doctors. So we really understood that the people who were talking to us were, even before they got a formal cooperative MOU from us to participate in their program, they were already going to the fields and collecting data, because the doctors didn't know who in different localities didn't know exactly what this was all about. And then we now realize the plan that they were building up a
Database.
yes, a GPS guided mapping, as they called it, the mapping of all the hospitals and the health professionals, and using the GPS in their phones to be able to track all the doctors and the medical personnel. They have their numbers. So this raised an alarm, and we were able to alert people, and all of a sudden, under the Buhari administration, things seem to have piped down. Now, immediately after Buhari's administration came to an end, they came up again with the so-called third phase of this survey. So this whole new program is what they are on now, to map and target and kill the doctors. This was exactly what they did for the farmers. Bill Gates donated, in quote, 14 million cell phones, which they call the electronic wallets. The idea was that they were going to give 2 billion naira loan or grant to farmers. What the plan, as far as the doctors are concerned, is that the doctors of Nigeria are the people who should, according to their plan, collect the eggs of women, which will now be used for the cloning procedure we call somatic cell nuclear transfer. And this is what I want to explain, what this is all about. Okay. Now, what the West is looking at is that they envisage a new human industry. The new human industry will make it possible to replace organ parts of sick people. Instead of continuously taking drugs for any medical condition, So what that means is that if you have a heart disease and you go to a doctor, the doctor will could take a sample from that your diseased heart, send it to the biotech companies, which are actually most of them in this category are owned by Bill Gates. They will now clone exactly that heart of that person. And how will they do this? They will take the cell the doctor sent them and remove the nuclear material. That's the nucleus that has all the genetic information. Now they will get the egg of a woman, or eggs of women, because they will need several eggs for this. They will remove the nucleus on that egg and then transfer the nucleus from that disease heart into that egg. So that's what we call somatic cell nuclear transfer. So when they transfer it and then they keep it in a culture to grow into a heart, replicating the exact heart of that diseased person. But now that heart will be brand new without disease. They can now send that heart back to the doctor and they will now implant it into the patient. And of course, the person must have paid maybe $2 million or $1 million or whatever the cost involved. But this process of doing this is a manual process. That means making this transfer into the egg of a woman. So the eggs of women could be taken in hundreds just to do one procedure. So they will need about 100 million eggs, which will come from 10 million women. So when they looked at the map of the world and saw where on earth can we get up to 10 million women to donate egg, when they looked at Nigeria, it looked very much promising for them. So Nigeria has the population over 250 million people, about that now. But one has to understand, why do they need to kill the doctors? They kill the farmers because they wanted to make sure they eliminate all the seed growers in the country. So when they eliminate the seed growers, the natural seeds will never be available again. And how they did that was very simple. What they did was that they just gave 14 million cell phones to all Nigerian farmers, so they could track those people who were being paid for seeds. So when other farmers go to them, they go to buy seeds, and then they know that this person was being paid for seeds. So he's the one selling the seeds. So they now use the GPS coordinates on these so-called electronic wallets, which are just cell phones, to target all of them and eliminate them. When you eliminate the natural seed growers, there will be no other alternative to the GMO, genetically modified organisms, foods and seeds. So they brought these seeds as improved seeds. The other farmers, they drove them into IDP camps and came to these IDP camps under the different NGOs and international agencies and presented these GMO seeds. So the farmers will now leave, they will temporarily hold their military activities in those areas, so the farmers will go and resettle. When they resettle, they start planting the GMO seeds. Once you plant the GMO seeds that first time, that first seed you get from that your maize, if you eat it, that will be the last you are going to eat. Because if you take the seed from that GMO corn and plant it, it will not grow. The gene that allows replication has been switched off. So you have to go back to the person who produced the initial seed. That is, in this case in Nigeria, it will be Monsanto. They will now use them to reproduce these seeds. So these seeds are what actually makes the agricultural produce to move on. So they are using this technique to eliminate all the natural seed growers. And then when the remaining farmers don't have any other place to get seeds than to go to them, to go to them for that. Now, where do the doctors come in? The doctors come in the fact that when they capture the food security, which they actually have done now, because most of the seed growers have been killed. Just to give you an example, between 2015 and 2018, 37,500 victims were killed by Boko Haram. Okay. These were farmers. Then of these 37,500, 32,000, that's 85% were Muslims. 5,500 were Christians. And in states like Zamfara, 60% of the victims were Hausa, 40% were Fulani. So it became clear that this has nothing to do with Islamic terrorism. It has to do with elimination of all the seed growers. Now they have eliminated the seed growers. Okay. Now they're moving into the second phase of their program. Now, when the farmers go to them, we now depend exclusively on the GMOs. Okay.
So you mean we not depend on GMOs right now?
Exactly. Okay. Because without the GMOs, you cannot really get seeds, unless we are getting seeds from different African countries and some places. Some places in the south, especially southwest, and some parts of southeast, we can still get our own seeds because the Boko Haram have not really infiltrated them. But they are trying to do that. So what is happening now is that they want to move into the next phase. The next phase is